This is Corey Lamley with lifeinthegrid.com, and in this 8-minute video, I'll be running through how you can set up your own virtual environment for free. This powerful technology, once only available to large corporations, is now available to everyone, including yourself. Virtual machine technology is changing the way we use computers. By understanding and using this technology, you will save money, time, and do things in your computing environment that you probably normally wouldn't or couldn't do without a virtual setup. At the end of the video, I'll give you a link where you can get detailed instructions how to apply all these techniques in your own network for free. So here I am with VirtualBox Manager, and I want to go ahead and set up my first virtual machine using VirtualBox. And I'm going to be running through these demonstrations pretty quickly, so if you want the full detailed step-by-step instructions on some of this, you can just visit lifeinthegrid.com/virtual. So let's go ahead and get started by clicking the New button here, and we'll go ahead and click Next. I'm going to go ahead and give this VM a name. We're going to call it Win7 VM. Now you can choose from a list of operating systems here. Obviously I'm choosing Microsoft, and I am going to be using a Windows 7 64-bit version. Let's click Next. Now in a Linux Mac XP box, you might be able to get by a 512. I would recommend 1024. But because I have a decent amount of RAM, I'm going to go ahead and allocate 2048 to this box. So let's go ahead and click Next. Let's choose the default here, which is create new hard disk. And we'll click Next again. Now all this does is actually open up a new wizard here. And we're going to choose dynamic for the hard disk type. And I'm going to set my hard disk to 40. Now obviously you're going to need to pay attention to the size of your hard drive. I mean, if you're working with a 300 gig hard drive, you could easily run out of space pretty quickly. Most drives today are 500 gigs or more. So just make sure you know what your hard drive size is and what you can allocate it to. Let's go ahead and click Next. And this will finish up the hard drive summary, and this is actually finishing up the virtual machine summary. We click Finish, and here we are ready for our first virtual machine. Now every virtual machine that you set up, you will have to run through one more wizard, and you only have to do this wizard one time. It's a first initialization setup of every VM, and as VMs are loaded into the VirtualBox Manager, you'll see them lining up here. So if you had a Mac box or another Linux box, you can load them up in here. So let's go ahead and start this first VM. Now when you start these VMs, you're going to run across quite a few of these information screens. Now please take the time to read them, make sure you understand how they work, because they help you interact with your keyboard and mouse. If you don't understand them, then you'll get locked into your virtual machine and you'll have a hard time getting back out. So read them, make sure you understand, and then once you're done with that, you can obviously click the Do Not Show button. So we're going to run through this first single time wizard. Now what this screen is asking for is it's just saying, hey, where's your operating system DVD or CD? So you can easily put that in your current DVD bay or drive and browse to it. You can also browse to an ISO file. An ISO file is just pretty much a DVD on file, and you can open up either one of those, and then you're going to click Next, Finish, and here we go. It'll be loading up our virtual machine. So here technically I'm loading Windows on a Windows box. Now let me bring this into view here so you guys can see it a little bit better. So this is running Windows 7 inside of Windows 7. Now something you want to note with the Windows 7 box is that you can actually use the serial key that you used on your other Windows box. So just go ahead and grab that key and install it here, and you can run both of the Windows 7 installations using the same serial key. So I'm not going to run through this whole installation, but I will be back in a bit after I'm done with the installation to run you through some more scenarios. Alright, I just installed a fresh copy of Windows 7 and I'm ready to re-engage my virtual machine. Before I do this, I want to run through some settings that you'll need to enable. So let's go ahead and click the Settings button here. And the first one that you want to look at is storage. Under here, when we originally set things up, I set up an ISO file. And if you have anything connected to this IDE controller, you're going to want to go ahead and remove it by clicking this Remove button. The next thing you'll want to look for over here is, by default, it originally sets it to NAT, N-A-T. We want to set it to bridged, and what this does in short is it allows your virtual machine to connect to the machine that actually is running VirtualBox Manager in a network way. So make sure both of those are checked. You're going to click OK, and then we're going to come over here to snapshots, and this is This is something that you'll want to get familiar with, because this is what allows you to create virtual machines at certain points in time. So say, for example, you load up 2 applications, you create a snapshot, and then you loaded 3 other applications. Well, if you go back to the snapshot, it's going to remove the 3 applications that you originally had because you didn't have a snapshot. So when you first do an installation, you're going to want to create a clean environment, or a clean set is what I say here. And what it is after I've got everything that I've got set up, I ran through the full Windows installation, I've got everything configured, and I just go ahead and snapshot it as a clean environment. And so this is something that you'll definitely want to do, so you don't have to run through the whole setup process again. So let's go ahead and fire up this virtual machine here. And as you can see, it's loading up. We're going to go ahead and minimize this so you guys can see this here. Now, something that I want to emphasize to you is that the info boxes that we talked about earlier, while they're important, when you actually fire up your VM and you click inside this VM area, suddenly you will lose control of your mouse from your actual guest host box. And so I can't go outside the bounds here, see? And my keyboard and mouse are bound to this virtual machine. Well, what happens if I want to get out of this virtual machine and into my other box? Well, if you look down here on the right corner, you'll see this little green arrow icon. Well, if you hold down the right button and the control button, you can actually escape out, and you'll see how that little green arrow changed. Now I can come back out here, and I'm in my actual my physical guest host box, and so I have access to everything there. So it's going to be an important thing that you want to pay attention to. Now, the last thing that I'm going to kind of run through is just showing you how the networking is set up. So say I wanted to browse to one of my other boxes. I've got networking all set up, so I can easily just log into this guy. And so now you can see that I'm actually accessing the file system on my main box from my virtual machine box. And now I can network any computer in my network, and this virtual machine just acts like a regular computer on the network. So that's pretty much a quick rundown of setting up virtual machines. And if you guys would like any more information about this, you can check out the blog post that I have on this. And if you guys would like me to create more videos around virtual machines, just engage the community at lifeinthegrid.com. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. All right, take care.